In the deep heat of Cambodia, there is a place where stone pretends to be a forest, and the forest pretends to be a city. Towers rise like lotus buds above the canopy. Roots grip walls like fingers. And if you stand still long enough, you can almost hear it. Water moving through canals that no longer carry water, and footsteps from a million lives that vanished. Centuries ago, a small party of foreigners pushed inland through the green labyrinth guided by locals, who spoke of ancient ruins as if they were simply part of the landscape. The air was heavy, thick with insect song. Leaves slapped against shoulders. The path smelled of wet earth and sap. Then the jungle opened, stone corridors, carved gates, vast walls shaped with a precision that didn't feel human, more like geology than architecture. And in the half-light beneath the trees, saffron-robed monks moved through shadowed doorways, still lighting incense in a place the world had already stopped counting. The visitors asked the obvious questions. Who built this? When? Why did people leave something this enormous behind? But the answers had thinned with time. The locals had stories, kings, generations, and age when the land was ruled from the city. One word kept returning, like an echo: Angkor. Welcome. In this episode, we're retracing the rise and decline of one of the most extraordinary civilizations on Earth, the Khmer Empire. Not just how it built temples that look impossible, but how it engineered a whole landscape to feed a megacity, and how the same systems that made Angkor powerful also made it fragile. People love the myth of the lost city, swallowed by vines and forgotten by everyone. But Angkor was never a blank spot in the minds of the people who lived nearby. Even after political power shifted away, the temples remained sacred. Farmers planted rice in the surrounding fields. Monks continued to pray. The jungle didn't erase Angkor overnight. It simply began its slow work of reclaiming what humans stopped maintaining. At its height, this wasn't a single temple complex. It was an urban world, an enormous, connected settlement zone with roads, reservoirs, canals, shrines, and fields woven together. Angkor wasn't built on the land so much as it was built into the land. Before Angkor became a giant, the region was fractured local rulers, competing power centers, shifting loyalties. Then a leader emerged who didn't just want to win battles. He wanted to transform legitimacy itself. He claimed a title that was more than political, more than military. A king whose authority wasn't merely enforced, it was cosmic. Through ceremony and symbolism, the ruler became the hinge between the human world and the divine order. That idea of sacred kingship would become the engine of empire. Because once your king is not just a king, but a living axis of the universe, then building a capital is no longer construction. It's devotion. To understand why Angkor could grow so large, we need three foundations, three pillars that held the whole system up. Pillar 1, central authority. A powerful throne unified the landscape. Orders could travel. Labor could be mobilized. Not only soldiers, but engineers, planners, builders, thousands at a time, coordinated under a single vision. Pillar 2, a temple-based administrative network. Local elites managed temples that weren't only religious sites, they were hubs of organization. Land, labor, tribute, record-keeping. Communities supported their own local centers, and surplus flowed upward toward the capital. It created a machine that could expand quickly village by village, harvest by harvest. Pillar 3, water mastery. This is the miracle at the heart of Angkor. Cambodia's climate is dramatic monsoon rains and dry seasons, flood pulses and drought risk. The Khmer didn't just survive that cycle. They tried to control it. They built reservoirs like inland seas, canals that stitched the terrain together, gates, embankments, diversion channels, an engineered bloodstream for a city and its farms. From above, the landscape begins to look almost modern. Straight lines, grids, geometry, a civilization drawing its logic into the earth itself. Here, as the rule history teaches over and over, The thing that makes a system powerful can also make it brittle. Crack 1. Sacred authority depends on belief. If the king's legitimacy is tied to religion and ritual, then a shift in faith or competing religious movements doesn't just change worship, it changes governance. Crack 2. Growth incentives can become extraction. When regions compete to produce surplus, land gets pushed hard, forests fall, soils wear down, peasants carry heavier burdens. What looks like prosperity from the palace can feel like exhaustion in the fields. Crack 3. Giant infrastructure requires constant maintenance. A vast water network is never finished. It silts up, banks erode, channels clog. A single weak point can ripple outward, and the larger and more interdependent the system becomes, the more catastrophic a failure can be. As centuries passed, Angkor faced a harder neighborhood. New regional powers gained confidence. Border wars flared. Raids and invasions became more frequent. And internal politics, succession disputes, rival courts, factional struggles added instability. At the same time, the spiritual landscape evolved. Religious ideas spread that were less compatible with divine kingship, and lavish temple economies movements that spoke directly to ordinary people, emphasizing humility, discipline, and the moral equality of all lives. When belief shifts at the base of society, the top of society feels it like an earthquake, slow at first, then suddenly undeniable. Then came a stress Angkor's engineers could not negotiate with: volatility. Imagine preparing for drought-digging channels, redirecting flows, keeping reservoirs alive, only for the sky to break open with extreme rains. Floods slam into a system optimized for steady control. Embankments weaken, sediment chokes waterways. Emergency fixes pile on top of old designs. And once maintenance falls behind, even slightly, the system begins to punish its own operators. Flooding damages roads. Stagnant water spreads disease. Fields become unreliable. Confidence cracks. People leave. Here's the cruel feedback loop. Fewer people means less labor for upkeep. Less upkeep means more breakdown. More breakdown drives more people away. Eventually, the infrastructure that once enabled the city becomes the reason it can't continue. After the last great political withdrawal, Angkor didn't explode into silence in one dramatic moment. It thinned, markets closed, processions ended, fires at roadside shelters went out. Wooden homes, so much of the living city vanished quickly. But stone remained, and the jungle did what it always does. It moved in patiently. Seeds dropped into cracks. Roots widened them. Trees grew on walls the way ships grow barnacles. Over generations, the forest wrapped itself around the ruins until the city looked less like a human place and more like a dream the land was having. Angkor is not a simple moral lesson, and it's not a story of mystery. It's a story about systems, about how brilliant coordination can build wonders, and how complex societies can become dependent on the very machinery that made them great. It reminds us that inequality isn't only a social problem, it's a stability problem. That infrastructure isn't just construction, it's maintenance. And that climate volatility doesn't have to destroy a civilization overnight to change its destiny. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Angkor and the Khmer Empire, subscribe for more long-form history built for immersive viewing. And tell me in the comments, which part of Angkor's story feels most familiar to the modern world: belief, inequality, or infrastructure?